Hi, my name is Celine and welcome to my channel. Spiritual practice, and is there wisdom in our triggers? That's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about spiritual practice, what that entails and what that is for me, and also the topic of triggers. I think it's, I suppose, a very relevant topic nowadays. I know it's very relevant to me. And I like to talk about topics that I feel I'm sort of living through and are very real and very authentic and very live. And so I can share my experience, what I'm going through, what I've learned from going through these experiences in the past. And I really think nothing beats that. All of my videos really revolve around my personal life experience, and through that I've learned a lot. I've learned from a lot of teachers, I've learned from a lot of training, a lot of reading, lots of different things. But personal experience, I think, when we embrace really the learnings of our personal experience, we really come into sovereignty, we really come into our power, we really come to know and honour ourselves. So that's why I find this an interesting topic, and also to sort of connect well with triggers. How does that whole topic fit into contributing to our spiritual practice? I'm sure we all have different things we do to support us in that. So I just want to talk about what that looks like for me, and hopefully share some insights and tools and experiences that will help you if you're going through a challenging time with triggers right now. So a spiritual practice, just to maybe just talk a little bit about what that means to me. Spiritual practice, I think the key to it, firstly, obviously, if it's a practice, it's a routine. It's something that you do regularly. You work on and you build and you deepen, I suppose, and grow with it. But for me, the most important part of a spiritual practice is the intention around the practice and my desire. And any spiritual practice for me is about going deeper into myself, into my true self, and really learning to let go of anything that is not authentic to me. So whether it's beliefs, behaviors, experiences, emotions, I heard it described in a way which I thought was really nice, like burning away all that you are not. So I think that's a lovely way to look at it. It's not like we're trying to get anywhere. We are, so our true self is here. We are the true self, but sometimes we become sort of disconnected, or everything else, all our experiences maybe are, and maybe pain and stuff are blocking us from that full experience. So that to me is what a spiritual practice is about. And any work with triggers feeds into that. So I see a trigger in my own life, I'm sure generally, as my definition would be anything, any experience, any interaction, any event, anything in my life that basically stirs up some energy inside of me. Makes me feel uncomfortable, uneasy, maybe threatened, maybe afraid. So it's anything, and to me what it's doing is it's saying, this is a part of you that needs to be healed. And the fact that it's coming up, I think this is the more positive way to look at it, is the fact that it's coming up and you are being triggered is that it's time. You're ready to deal with this, you're ready to heal it, you're strong enough, you're ready to let go and evolve to the next stage in your life. So that's how I try to look at it, even when it's challenging, because they are challenging. There's no doubt, particularly if it's something we've held on to for quite a while. So that's what I suppose what I see as a trigger. My definition of a trigger. Is there wisdom or intelligence? Yes, I think intelligence is a lovely way a really good way to look at it. Our triggers to me hold great intelligence, and really what they're doing is they're guiding us. It's like in through a gateway into past experiences that we didn't process to completion. And I think that's a really good way to look at it. So it could be anything that happened in our past, but, you know, maybe because it was painful, maybe because we weren't seen or heard in that experience that we shut down. So it hasn't been processed. And as a result, it's holding us back, and it needs to be. So that's, to me, is a really a nice way to look at this. Is an opportunity here. There's something, you know, there's something it wants to show you. So there's great wisdom. It's a golden opportunity. That's, I say this, sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but I know it for sure, because I've, you know, dealt with a lot of triggers, and they're really, really coming up again for me. And I think a lot of people I'm talking to right now are feeling the same. So I want to bring a little bit of my personal experience and my own triggers into this video, just to, I suppose, share, you know, something. You may be going through something similar, you may be going through something different, but it's likely, you know, the process that we go through is quite similar. So I have been, yes, very triggered in the last week or two. Comes in waves, and it's interesting because some of the issues or sort of fears or reactions that have come up in me, I thought I had healed. You know, I have done a lot of work on. I was like, I can't believe I'm here again. Now I'm there again, and I'm not. It's in a different way. And I suppose something I have learned throughout my life is that, you know, healing doesn't happen in a linear way that we look at life or would have looked at life. It's a sort of a circular. So you're often coming around and going in through the layers. You know, we only heal what I suppose we are able to at the time, and then we need time to integrate, and then we come back again. And, you know, eventually you come into the core, and I feel I'm really at the core. It's like I feel I'm back at, you know, a wound that is almost like from before I was born, or, you know, it's very, or in the womb. And I suppose a core wound or a belief that I grew up with it is, I always felt it very strongly in my life, is that basically my life is of no value unless I'm doing something for somebody else, or I'm making them feel happier, or I'm responsible for that. Just me being me was never enough. You know, I had a good life and everything, growing up in a good family, but, you know, we're all human, so these things happen as we develop and grow up. And I mean, even when I was going to make a video on this yesterday, I couldn't even talk about it. The emotion was just so profound. It was like my very survival depended, like it was just being, it just felt like my whole existence was being, you know, going to be wiped out. It's hard to describe, but it's interesting when I sort of allow now. I mean, it isn't, I'm back in the core of it. I know that. I feel this is sort of the final, I hope, phase of this healing, this wound. But I'm able to do it. For years I didn't, and I suppose it's interesting when I look back at this idea of, you know, you're only of value if you're basically you're not worthy. Just being is not enough. I sometimes find it hard to put words on, but I can still feel it really trigger and bring up such emotion in me. So yeah, I grew up, and when I look back, it was quite interesting. When I look back on my life, I can see there was a pattern, and as a result of that belief, I sort of attracted relationships, friendships, situations that really allowed me fulfill this, I'm not worthy unless I'm doing something for you. You know, that's my only function nearly. And that's just, you know, I had that belief about myself, so I attracted everything I attracted, you know, lived up to it. So what's really good though to be able to say is, when I look around at my life, there's very little of those types of relationships and situations there anymore, which is a testament, I believe, to the work I have done. There'll be more to do. But it's interesting because it all again came to a head when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I talk about this quite a bit because cancer is my story. It could be something else for you, but it was such a big landmark in my life, like a really big reboot, and it stopped me. But it's like I was full on in that mode of, I always have to be fixing other people's problems, or solving them or rescuing them, or, attracting people who were sort of very in victim mode. And that was the pattern in my life. And isn't it, I find it interesting then that breast cancer manifested on the right breast, which the right side of the body, as I understand it, is all about that yang energy, male energy, going, doing, which was me, full of stress hormones. I had adrenal fatigue, cortisol, just like, oh my God. I went to a kinesiologist afterwards, went to lots of different healers. So that was my path. So I sort of feel I've done a lot of work on healing that core wound, I suppose, after cancer. And I went to an amazing lady, a spiritual healer. She calls herself a spiritual midwife. I don't say she calls herself, she is. That's how I would see her. And really, that's what I love that description, because really it was about birthing the new me. And part of the labor and the pains is really, letting go and healing all of those wounds and what I'm not, letting go of these beliefs. So it was really deep work, and I did it for a number of years with her. And I've gone on to do other things, but, and other practices that I do now. But it just, I suppose, that's what surprised me nearly, when I thought, oh my God, you're here again. I thought you did this work. But I suppose this is just the process. So what I would say to anyone, if you're struggling now, and you're, just things are coming up for you and really triggering you, whether it's people or situations, there are things you can do. Obviously there's, different type of healers you can work with. I've talked about this in another video. Boundaries was a big one for me, and it may be for you as well, but it's just something to look at, because I had this sense that I basically was responsible nearly for anyone else and what they were going through. I had no concept. I didn't even know what a boundary was. It was just, whatever you need, take it, because that's my role here on earth. That's really how I felt, and that's how I ended up so burnt out. So it's been hard work. It's been challenging at times but even to understand that I was entitled to have boundaries, and it's okay to say, no, this isn't okay for me anymore. So that's been a huge step for me, and a great relief actually to know that. So boundaries is something I've worked a lot at, and it can be uncomfortable, not just for me, I would say for people in my life or who were in my life, because, it's not, when you change, it's not that other people are ready to change as well, and it's not a criticism. It's just, suddenly the little bit of things have gone out of alignment, because whatever codependence was there in the relationship, when someone shifts, the whole thing starts to change. But it's important work, and that whole area of codependence as well, in looking at that, I had to look at that in a lot of relationships. Another big thing I think is really important is when you're triggered, is really, my instinct always was to go out and project out at that person or event or situation. And I think that's where we lose. We're losing a really good opportunity if we do that and we get lost in the story. I heard some really good advice about let go of the story. Like, the story is really not relevant. The story perpetuates the same feeling going around, and you're not really, you just get stuck in it. So it was really good advice for me is, let go of the story. Stop projecting. What this is doing is telling you to come back inwards. You need to do the work inside. And I think once you're doing that and you can get to a place, I feel it more now. I'm more connected to my truth and my center. And once I'm doing that, it isn't always easy, but I do know, well, once I'm doing that and honouring it, it cannot be bad for other people. If you're coming from a true place, you're coming from your heart. it has that is sovereignty, and that is standing in your own authentic expression. Another aspect as well is the whole area of surrendering. I've been doing a lot of that this week down by the sea and at different places. And I heard a lovely description, a spiritual teacher, one that I follow, and she talked about at the moment how most people are feeling at sea. So imagine yourself bobbing out in the sea and you're surrounded by all these other people bobbing around in the sea, totally lost, not knowing where we're going, like everything, their whole sense of direction, everything is just upended, and roaring and shouting at each other and all this projection. And what she was saying is, just think of you're on the sea, and just like lying back, just letting go, and you'll be held, and you float, and you'll find your way. But there is no other way to do this because there's nothing to hold on to. And I think that's where the real pain comes. So it's important work, I think, around triggers. And ultimately, I would say, well, what's the payoff? I might say, God, all this work over and over. But it does get easier, and I just know it and feel it that this time on our planet, this is the big time of clearing. If we want to move into the next stage of the planet's ascension and our evolution, we have to let this stuff go. I feel it's a big thing for everyone. So many people I talk to, whether they're aware of it or not, are talking about, challenges they're having in their lives. So the payoff for me, and I talk about this in my book. I've a book that I'm publishing in March of next year, Gifts from the Devastation, which is my own story. And I wrote this a few years ago, but I had a very strong feeling that we're moving into an age of a new human, a new kind of human, I called it. And that's the sort of person, how I describe it, as someone who is, you've cleared all of this and you're living fully connected to this creative force. I keep coming back to it because to me it is everything. This allows you to come back in and embrace the fullness of who you are, that creative life force and energy. So it's so worth it for everything I've done so far, and I've more to do. It's so worth it. So I really hope, if you're being challenged right now and you're being triggered and you feel alone, or you're just feeling like this is just so difficult, it is sometimes one day at a time, one moment at a time, 1 hour at a time. But this in its own way, this is a really, really great opportunity to clear and all of these triggers and move forward to the next stage of our evolution and growth. So I'll finish this video just by leaving you with a few questions maybe you might want to consider. Definitely, well, where are you being triggered? And if you are, where are you being triggered in your life? And taking some time, journaling can be good to do on this, as well as all of the other things I was mentioning, and really facing and feeling into it. But yeah, what needs healing? What is it bringing up? Like I said, for myself, this sort of core, it really has felt like I'm back in the core of something so almost existential, primal. It just sort of shocked me nearly, but I sort of understand it now after these last few weeks. So yeah, what needs healing? And I suppose the big one then is, do you really want to live your life at your fullest expression, really in your fullest creative potential and power? And if the answer, I think, which is yes for all of us, then this work is, it's gold dust, really. It's tough, but it's gold dust. And again, I heard it described, I'll leave you on this note, when someone said, when these triggers and these challenges come up, devour them. That, once you devour them, then you're free, you're liberated, it just gets better. So I leave you on that note. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helps you. I'll continue with my work because I'm sure, more triggers are going to come up, but I know what they're about now, whereas I didn't in the past, and that's the difference. That's a whole different perspective. This is a very empowering way to live. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can get a copy of my free guide, 6 Signs You're Getting a Spiritual Wake-Up Call, by clicking on the link below. And also my new book, Gifts from the Devastation, is available to pre-order. And again, the link is in the description box, as is my first book, The Tapestry of Life, which is it's a work of fiction, but it's a really, it is and it isn't, in that it's all about the power of community and how the power of community changed my life after cancer. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in another video. So thank you very much for watching, and till the next time, take care.